So today we're going to be talking about a hip shift while squatting. So that is you're favoring either the left or the right side as you descend down into the squat. And quite often what happens is the hips shift across onto one of those legs and one of the legs become more dominant through the movement. We had this question along actually a few months ago, and I filmed it once and I was a bit hesitant to put the video up, so I've decided to film it again, and that is because Dr. Quinn Henoch of Juggernaut Training Systems has done a very, very good explanation of what I believe is the major cause for a hip shift, and that is an imbalance in the rotation capacity at the hips. So I'm going to link that in the description box below with some PRI drills and some breathing patterns that you can improve the rotation capacity of the left and the right hip to help you center yourself in your squat a lot better. But today I'm going to touch on a few other things that he doesn't touch on in his video, so we're going to add to the conversation, I believe, here with our Melbourne Strength Culture video. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the stability demands of a few of the joints, particularly the hips and the core, and also the mobility demands of the ankles throughout a squat. So I'm going to touch on mobility first, and that is at the ankle joint. Through our assessment process here at Melbourne Strength Culture, we come across a lot of deficiencies in ankle dorsiflexion when we're comparing left and right sides. So that is one ankle can dorsiflex, so the knee can push further past the toe, more so on one side than the other. We know that the ability to go through dorsiflexion is very important through a squat, and if one of your ankles possesses a greater ability to move, it's actually going to limit up, it's actually going to affect, what happens with stability up the chain. So as we're moving up in a joint by joint approach. So if you're limited on your right side and your ankle runs into a block and you try to get deeper in the squat, as the left ankle moves more through dorsiflexion, you might actually begin to start to rotate your entire body as a system into that left side, and that might be causing a shift. So this will be the first thing that I'll get you to check if you are experiencing a hip shift, and that is your ankle dorsiflexion. This can be easily assessed with just a standard knee to wall assessment, obviously measuring left and right side, and then doing something in terms of mobility training to improve that deficit if you do possess that. The second thing that you really need to have a look at if you are experiencing a hip shift through your squat is just your standard core breathing and bracing strategy. I talk about this all the time. I harp about it. I've actually got people that joke about this is all I talk about, but it is so very important that you are breathing and bracing correctly to perform a heavy barbell squat. And that is that you're not extending yourself into an extension position or extension bias through your lumbar spine. You're not anteriorly tilting your hips as you go to load your squat, and that you have a very strong bracing strategy controlled by intra-abdominal pressure. And that is diaphragmatic breathing, pulling down, creating pressure in your abdomen, and then you're stabilizing that with a very big core co-contraction. So this will be the second thing that I would recommend that you look into if you are experiencing some sort of hip shift, and that is your breathing and bracing strategy. We've talked about this again, so I'll link a few links in the description box of this video if you want to check that out. The third thing we're going to talk about today is the demand of stability at the hips themselves and what you can actually do to improve your hip stability so that you're not favoring either a left or right side as you descend into the squat. We have two major keys that we talk about here at Melbourne Strength Culture, two major cues, and that is spreading and screwing of the feet. So some people talk about this as rooting your feet into the ground. A lot of people talk about a tripod foot being the big toe, knuckle, the little toe, and the heel, and you're grabbing the floor with those 3 points of contact and you're screwing them into the ground, into external rotation to provide stability at the hip. The second thing that we like to cue is actually spreading the floor, and that is hopefully going to try and cue yourself into a little bit more abduction at the hip joint, which is going to help use our glutes a lot more than probably what you're using if you are experiencing some sort of significant hip shift. Our idea is that you're grabbing the floor with your 3 points of contact, you're rooting yourself into the ground, so you're screwing your feet in the ground, and then you're trying to spread the floor apart the entire time. Quite often this can also help people who struggle to maintain a neutral knee alignment, and that they either dive into adduction and internal rotation. Quite often this is a glute weakness or a poor motor control that can be aided or fixed, most of the time fixed, just by cueing some more activity with the feet. So be active with your feet. Spread and screw the floor apart with your feet. The fourth thing that we're going to talk about today is simply just a leg strength discrepancy. And that is that you might just have a stronger leg that your body wants to favor. And as a result, it's going to shift its center of mass over that leg so that you can use that leg for more of the load or the force production to move the barbell. So an easy way for you to assess this is simply just a loaded fatigue test. And that would be simply just find a single leg exercise that you can do, maybe do a couple of them with a few different muscle groups. So like a single leg hamstring exercise, like a single leg RDL, or a single leg press for a quad or a glute, or a Bulgarian split squat, something that is going to train one side of the body unilaterally, and then you can fatigue manage this in terms of an assessment. So you can grab a load or load up the leg press and work out and determine whether or not one of your legs is significantly stronger than another. Again, if you are significantly stronger in one of your sides, what will happen is your body will favor that side and shift the center of mass onto that side, and then utilize that leg to create more force, causing that shift in your squat pattern. So the final thing that I'm going to touch on today is how you can implement tempo squats into your program to help improve the motor control and your skill acquisition of the actual squat itself. If you've moved through these tests that I've just talked about and you've done some breathing and bracing strategies and you've improved your core positioning, you've also improved your hip stability through active feet, you don't have any ankle range of motion discrepancies, tempo squats can be a really, really good way for you to improve your motor control throughout the movement of the squat. It can also help you identify where in the squat you're starting to break down and what is causing you to feel that shift occur. So what I would recommend with your tempo squats is a tempo eccentric, a pause, and a tempo concentric. So maybe a 3-second down, a 1-second hold, and a 3-second up. And then this is just something that you can improve and build upon. Eventually you'll want to phase out the concentric or the up phase tempo. So what eventually as you'll progress with your tempo squats, you'll move into just an eccentric tempo and potentially a pause. So maybe like a 3-second down phase, a 1-second hold, and then an explosive concentric phase. This can then start to become more specific to powerlifting squatting, which is always the end goal, and that is being specific with your training. So I'd recommend using the tempo squat somewhere in your week of training to improve your motor control and your awareness around what is causing you and where the feeling of your shift is starting to occur. As always, if you have any questions, please leave them in the description box below. You can follow us on the social links that are all in the description box. Thank you for watching. Happy lifting. Welcome to the culture, and we'll see you next week. Woo!